You ever notice how a terrifying near miss in traffic seems to unfold in slow motion, but the best vacation of your life is just gone in a flash? We're all taught that time is a constant, right? It just ticks forward, 1 second at a time. But is that really how we experience it?
So let's get right into it because that's the real question here, isn't it? Are the laws of physics actually bending around you? Or is that incredibly complex machine between your ears, your brain, creating a reality that's all its own?
To figure this out, we're not going to look at some physics textbook or a clock on the wall. Nope. We're going to look right inside our own heads. Because when it comes to the feeling of time, the universe's clock, well, it doesn't matter nearly as much as your own. I mean, we live our lives by the minute and the hour, and we just assume it's this fixed universal thing for everybody. But it's not at all. Your brain is constantly stretching and compressing time based on what you're doing, what you're feeling, and this subjective experience actually has a name. This is the key. We have to get this distinction down. You've got clock time. That's what physicists measure. It's predictable. It's the same for everyone. But then you have psychological time, and that's what we feel. It's bendy, it's personal, and it completely depends on what's going on inside your mind.
Now, what's so fascinating about this is that scientists have actually looked for a time center in the brain, one single spot that handles all the timekeeping. And guess what? They've never found it. And the reason is time perception isn't one single job. It's a construction.
Your brain literally builds your sense of time by weaving these three things together. How much attention are you paying? How many new memories are you making? And what emotions are you feeling? The mix of these ingredients is what determines whether a minute feels like a second or like an hour. Let's see how that works. So let's start with the most dramatic example, right? That feeling of the world shifting into slow motion when you're in serious danger. It's a surprisingly common experience, and there's a very clear biological reason for it. Okay, let's walk through this. Imagine a car swerves into your lane. Instantly, your amygdala, that's the brain's alarm system, it just screams, danger! It floods your body with adrenaline, and all of a sudden your senses are supercharged. Your brain starts recording a crazy amount of data. The color of the other car, the look on the driver's face, the screech of the tires. Later on, when your brain plays back this super detailed memory, it looks at the sheer volume of information and thinks, whoa, that must have taken a long time to happen. So here's the punchline. The world didn't go into slow motion. You went into fast forward. Your brain was just processing information at such a high frame rate that, looking back, the whole event feels stretched out. Okay, so now let's flip the coin. What about those moments we wish would last forever? That perfect day with friends or getting totally lost in a project you love. Why does time just seem to disappear? Well, when you're feeling safe and happy and engaged, your brain does the total opposite of what it does in survival mode. It's not scanning for threats. It's not obsessively cataloging every little detail. It's just experiencing things that are familiar and pleasant. And that doesn't require a lot of new memory making. And this just lays it all out perfectly. On one side, you've got fear. It triggers hyper-awareness, creates these super dense memories, and bam, time feels like it's expanding. On the other side, you've got happiness. It leads to low awareness of new details, creating sparse memories, and time feels like it's shrinking. It's all about how much data your brain is writing to its hard drive. This isn't just some poetic little saying. It's actually a surprisingly accurate description of a really complex neurological process. We say time flies because, from our memory's point of view, it just didn't leave behind a lot of data to prove it was here for very long.
Okay, so with all that in mind, let's zoom out a little bit. We've kind of established that your brain is manufacturing your personal experience of time. So, what does that imply about the nature of time itself? Yeah, physicists can measure time, for sure. It's part of the fabric of space-time, a basic coordinate of the universe. But the feeling of a past, a present, and a future, that river of time we all feel like we're floating down, that doesn't exist out there in the cosmos. It exists in here, inside our consciousness.
I mean, just think about it. One person's waiting for life-changing news, and for them, a single minute feels like a year. The person sitting right next to them is just scrolling on their phone, totally absorbed. And that exact same minute just vanishes. The clock on the wall treats them both equally. Their brains definitely do not. Time as we actually know it is deeply personal. So this leads us to a final and honestly a pretty mind-bending idea that some scientists are exploring. What if our perception of time isn't just a distorted version of reality? what if it's the only version of reality there is?
Now, I know this sounds like a radical theory, but it kind of follows from everything we've just talked about. If time is a product of our attention, our memory, and our emotions, what happens when you take away the brain that has all those things? This theory suggests that what's actually real isn't time,
But that in the universe, things just happen. A star is born, a rock falls, a cell divides. These are just events, a huge collection of moments that exist without any inherent before or after.
And then our brain comes along. To make sense of all this chaos, it basically acts like a film editor. It takes this jumble of events, all these still frames of reality, and it strings them together into a linear story, a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It creates the narrative we call the passage of time.
The implication of this theory is, well, it's profound. If the brain is the storyteller that creates time, then without that storyteller, there's no story. The flow of time from past to future might be an exclusively biological thing.
And you know, maybe this is the ultimate takeaway. We always think of ourselves as passengers, floating down the river of time. But maybe we're not on the river at all. Maybe we are the river. Maybe time isn't something that happens to us. It's something our consciousness does. So I'll leave you with this last thing to chew on. If our entire sense of past, present, and future is just an elaborate construction of the human mind, what happens to that construct when the mind isn't there to build it anymore? It's a question that takes us right to the very edge of what we think we know about reality itself.